You're trying hard not to show it, baby. But baby, believe me, I know it. You've lost that love and feeling.
I've been beating myself up for my lack of progress on vehicles, and I woke up this morning thinking about that song, You've Lost That Love and Feeling. Well, I have not lost that love and feeling. I have just been making different choices. You know, that we make choices to prioritize work, and sometimes we don't do that rationally. We let other things get in the way. Now, there are a lot of legit excuses for not working on your projects. You might have a new baby, or you might be on vacation, or you might just have, maybe you're moving something, you know, you're remodeling a bathroom or something. Um, that's excuses. Those are all excuses. And so I want to talk about the different reasons and why we have the different reasons and what to do about the different reasons for not working on our projects, and see if we can't find a strategy for making progress. Sign me up for the upside of projects when everything is new. You know, you're discovering and learning about your vehicle, and you just get these continuous bursts of endorphins as you find the problems with the vehicle and you solve those problems, and you hear it fire for the first time, and the smoke and fire comes to life, and then you drive it for the first time. That's all amazing, and that's all the upside of projects. The downside is that sometimes there's drudge work, and there's actually two downsides for me. One is drudgery. It's the things that are boring or not exciting, where the reward isn't, where there's a lot of work but not a lot of reward. And then there's the things where my own insecurities come into play, where I'm not good at something, like carburetors, for instance, and I just can't. I just kind of tend to want to avoid those things. So the drudgery and the places where I don't feel very competent are places that I tend to avoid, or things that I've done in the past that were left me kind of scarred emotionally because I spent a lot of time working on it or doing it, and it had a bad impact on me. And so I think that's what makes us make choices about whether to work on something or not. Sometimes we let life get in the way, because when the vehicle's brand new and everything's all exciting, you're going to find every way to get out into that shop, even if it's just for a minute, to make a little bit of progress, or to look at your thing a little bit more or whatever. So let's. I want to give some examples, I guess, of how I've been stalled on a couple of my projects. Spoiler alert: this might be the longest excuse video you've ever watched. If you've got excuses like this, feel free to put them down in the comments below so that I can understand why you're not getting your projects done. We're going to call this one the eBay Beta Alfetta. And why it's beta is because I had one before it, and I had bought it in rough condition. It had been wrecked in the front, really low mileage, but it was way more work than I could possibly handle. And so I finally pulled the trigger and bought this one off eBay. I paid a lot of money for it, and it doesn't show now because this thing is just covered in dust from just sitting out here. It's undercover, but it's still outside. So yeah, this is a cool car. It runs and drives, and when I got it, it ran and drove. It just wasn't very fast. A little diagnosing got me to the point where I replaced the fuel pump, because it had a fuel pump on it with a low pressure fuel pump for carburetors, and the car has fuel injection. And so I believe that at some point it had a different engine with carburetors in it, and then when they swapped the motor, it just never performed like they expected it to, but they never changed to the high pressure fuel pump. I happened to have one, put it in, and voila, we were in business. So the car is running and driving, and basically the one thing that's holding me back too much from driving it is that the steering rack is a quick ratio steering rack, which is really cool, except that something has let go inside of it, and so I have a dangerous amount of play when I'm driving down the road um, in it, and so it's a little bit of like herding, I don't know, herding cats, I guess. It's not that bad, but I mean, it's drivable, but I just worry about it letting go and then causing me to crash. So I need to fix that. I need to get it up. I've taken a rack out of one of these before, and it requires lifting the engine, getting the engine mounts loose, and everything else. And so that's one of those examples of, I've done it once before. It was a real pain in the butt. I'm kind of hesitant to do that again, but I'm gonna do it again. I just need to. And then I don't know if the quick ratio rack on this is special, or if it has any special parts, and I may just have to source a whole other rack that's not quick ratio. But anyway, so I guess I'm stalled on this. Although I could drive it, it's got plates and insurance on it. But I just have not been driving it. I took it several times last year to Cars and Coffee, and that was fun. And so I may have to just get it back on the road and then let that be my motivation to get it going. We're going to call this one the Left for Dead short bed. It's a 1970 F100 two-wheel drive. And as you can see, I've been putting it to work a little bit, which indicates some of the other things that have been taking me off track. But I've done a lot of work to this thing. I got it in no drivetrain, or actually it just had a transmission in it, but no engine. And I was able to source an engine for it. The body wasn't bolted down to the frame. I took care of that. I put some wheels and tires on it. I still need a center cap and a beauty ring, but that's what I've got on it, which I'm pretty happy about. I've done some work on recovering the seat. It's got, well, there's some parts in here, but it's got headers on it with an exhaust system that I made up. I put a rear bumper on it, something I sourced and installed. And so yeah, so this is a great example of I've made a lot of progress on it in a short amount of time. I've got it running and driving, but the carburetor is giving me fits. It is flooding, and it doesn't flood all the time, and so I need to pull it apart. And it's got a Holly on it that came on the mid '80s trucks for Ford. It was built for Ford, and it's kind of an emissions carburetor. And that thing is just a pain in the butt. And so I either need to get another carburetor or I need to go through that one. Probably replace the needle and seat. And so I actually have managed to get an air cleaner on it, and it's complete and ready to go. And so this is another example of where my weakness on carburetors is kind of stopping me from working on it further. I guess the other thing on this one is that it doesn't have brakes, or it has only rear brakes, and that's because it's only got fluid in the rear master cylinder, because the front master cylinder isn't hooked to anything, because someone had started doing a disc brake swap on this thing. And so I've got all the parts. I just need to do the work. So if I come in here, I've got rotors, I've got calipers, I've got some front end parts, I've got bearings, I've got brake lines, I've got brake pads, I've got new shocks. I've got just a lot of stuff for it that I just needed to complete the work. And so I guess that's just that's the drudge work that I'm kind of avoiding, because I just don't feel like doing it. And then I've got to put this on there. And I got to say that I have a serious issue. I just don't like getting under the dash of a vehicle. I mean, it's a real pain in the ass. You can't see up there. You're going to spend a lot of time. Your back's going to get all whacked out of shape. And so those are things that are stopping me from working on it. And I've got to find a way to get around that and get back to making progress again. I was in Australia for 6 weeks last year. And during that time, I couldn't work on anything. And when I came back home, I was so motivated to work on vehicles that I worked every single day for weeks until I I made so much progress. And learning there is like, absence definitely makes the heart grow fonder. But anyway, so that's one project. Let's move on to another project and why I'm stalled. And there it is right there. It's a 63.5 Falcon Sprint. That thing is about 2 years of work so far for me. And it is running and driving again. So there we are, running and driving. We get it to that point. And then it's got when I got it, the engine was sitting in it and the transmission was sitting in it, but they weren't really installed. So I installed that, shortened a drive shaft, took the engine, and it had been started, the fuel injection conversion was being done, and I just pulled all that off and just went with a carburetor, which I bought brand new, another Holly. So it's got a Holly on it that's brand new. And because I've kind of haven't driven it that much, the carburetor started to gum up a little bit on me. And so now it is dying sometimes. Once it warms up, it doesn't want to idle. So that means I've got to go back into it and figure out what is actually going on with it. And that's kind of I guess it's enough for me not to want to dive into it. And what I should do is just break down, watch some YouTube videos. I mean, that thing is brand new. It's just the fuel that we have today is so crappy that it gets in the way of proper running. But it's a fun car. It does need, I guess the brakes are pulling to one side, and that's another place where I was sort of scarred, was working on drum brakes. It had been a while since I'd done it, and I'm sure I was doing it all wrong. Apparently there's some tricks to being able to assemble everything and then be able to mount it up without having to try to stretch springs and have things hit you in the face and everything else. But right now, when you drive it, when you hit the brakes, it immediately pulls to one side. And so I've been told that's usually an adjustment issue. And so what I need to do is get both of them adjusted to just before they touch, and then see if that problem goes away. But I think it's going to be a fun car when it's all said and done. And it's just, I just need to do something different than what I'm doing today. So let's talk about solutions for some of that stuff. I mean, we're starting to see a trend here, and I'm stopping because I don't want to share everything about how I'm failing on all these vehicles and not doing them justice. But this morning I woke up thinking about this, and I realized that the answer is right in front of me. I mean, I'm a runner. I don't know if that's clear or not. People that know me know that. But this morning I went out for a run. I forced myself to do 4 miles of hill repeats, and I'm training for an event in Arizona, and I have to do that, or else there's going to be consequences. Where I'm going to be going and doing a 72-hour event on a 1-mile track. I've done it before, and trust me, it sucks if you're not trained for that. You know, the pain of today is better than the pain of tomorrow. How does all that apply to cars? So one of my strategies for getting ready for this race is to do a run streak. And so I started on August 13th, and I started basically running every day until New Year's Day, when the event is. And I'm doing a minimum of 1 mile a day, every day. And one of the things that I discovered is that, and I've known this for a long time actually, but one of the things I discovered is that when you get out there, you're standing in the street or you're standing on the trail with all your running clothes on and your shoes and everything else to do your 1 mile. And you start thinking, and you're like, well, I'll just get this done and see how it goes. And so you get that done, and next thing you know, you're going 2 miles or 3 miles or 4 miles, or you're just feeling great, and all of a sudden, and you just go for 7 or 8 miles. And that means that we've got to put ourselves into those positions to be able to go and do, it's like you have to put yourself in a position for success. And I think that's what I've got to start doing with these vehicles. I think that I've got to do a car work streak. I don't know what you want to call that, but I think I need to do something like that. So that's my strategy, I think, for breaking my log jam, is really for the next 30 days, I'm going to accomplish something on one of my projects every day. I'm going to make a list of large and small tasks, and I'm going to every day get out and try to do, depending on how I feel that day and what kind of time I've got available, but steady, forward, relentless progress. And I think that something like that might help me move forward. And if it's anything like my run streak, I'm going to find myself looking forward to it. I'm going to make a space for it in my day. I'm going to prioritize it, essentially, and hold myself accountable to that. And I think that will help me in moving forward and making a lot of progress on my vehicles and get me over those log jams. Because a lot of times, once you get over that perceived discomfort of that one thing that you're dreading, it's not as bad as you thought it was, or it is, but you get through it, and you suffer through it, and it makes you stronger. So I think that's kind of my strategy. I hope this helps you break your log jam. I hope you don't have a car that's out in the shop with garage sale boxes on it, buried behind a bunch of stuff. But if it does, go out there and peel all the stuff back and just take a look at it and identify those short and long-term things that need to be done. Maybe order something on Amazon so that you can go and accomplish one small thing. And I think that that's going to help you move forward and get you a little farther past where you are today. Anything forward is progress, and progress is the answer for getting to the end. So all this bonus footage, but this is another excuse, is that this needs a kingpin. And it's got excessive wear, so I need to do that, and I've heard horror stories about replacing those. But that's the one thing stopping this. I've been using it, obviously, for trash and for construction stuff. But I think I did get the gun rack in, so now it's legit. But I'm just waiting for the title on this. It should be coming through in the next few weeks, and once it does, then this is ready to go on the road once I get that kingpin done. I'll add that to my list. And another vehicle waiting on a title, the 64 Falcon Ranchero. And so this one, I've got a meeting with a state patrol in October to get it licensed for the road, or to get a title and my name on it. The other thing that stopped me on this one was that the clutch Z-bar, they call it, which is an actuating lever, a mechanical actuating lever that I had for it, I ordered, didn't fit it. And so I ordered the second one, and I have not yet gotten around to putting it in. So I need to do that, and it runs and drives. Well, it runs, but I can't engage the clutch. And so that's another project that I guess I'm kind of using the excuse of that I don't have a title for it yet to really dive in and finish it off. So, so more examples again. Thanks for watching the bonus footage. One day this one may have a V8 in it, but for now it's a 6-cylinder with a 3 on the tree. All right. Thanks again for watching.